they basically accused me of his death. Hi and welcome to Flaa Talk. I'm Kjersti Flaa. I am an entertainment reporter, and lately I've been talking a lot about what goes on behind the scenes here in Hollywood. My latest video was about the Golden Globes and the incredible corruption that's been going on there for decades, and the way that I took up the fight against that and the price that I had to pay for doing that. And this video will be a continuation of my latest video. So if you didn't watch that one, please do that first, because otherwise you might not understand what I'm talking about. There is a link in description to that video. First of all, thank you to everyone for all your amazing support, your beautiful messages. It means so much to me. You have no idea. It's been such a roller coaster of emotion on this whole thing, this whole fight that I've had with the Golden Globes and that Magnus have had with them. I talked about that in my latest episode as well, how Magnus, my boyfriend, was very involved in everything, and for him it's still really hard to talk about this. So I don't know if he's going to come on my channel and talk about it. We'll see. I hope he does, because his story is so heartbreaking as well, and I'm sure, you know, there's so many other journalists that I know of out there that has very similar experiences as I did with this group. So 4 days after I had filed my lawsuit, the president, Lorenzo Soria, died from lung cancer. He had struggled with lung cancer for many years, and he had stage 4, and he had been weak for a while. But then when he died, they blamed me for it. Magnus received an email from the COO, Greg Gochner, who was actually an in-house lawyer that they hired, so to take care of things, to make things sure that things were legal. And he sent an email to Magnus saying that I owed Lorenzo's widow and son an apology. So they basically accused me of his death. How can anyone do such a thing? So a few months after everything was public and the industry boycotted them, 2 members resigned in protest. And I showed some clips from an interview that they did with the New York Post, in my previous video. It was Diedrich and Ting Ting, and they said, you know, we don't want anything to do with this group anymore. Nothing's changing. They refused to make the changes that's, you know, necessary. So we resign. And it was a big news story back then. And of course, the members reacted in disgust to these people who could do this to them. Elizabeth Sarita, who's now on the board of the Golden Globes, wrote to the members, I quote, "These 2 are rats from a not-so-sinking ship." She called them rats. And she's now on the board. You can see here on their website, she is a board member. Look at that. And then also Judy Solomon, who's now deceased, wrote that it was good to get rid of this cancer of the association, and that she hoped that more people would follow. Basically, other people that supported me, she hoped that they would follow. HFPA at the time went to the press with this statement: "At a time when the overwhelming majority of our members have chosen to be a part of change, it is disappointing that some members have decided to try and splinter our organization and sow division and doubt. While some may have their own agendas, the board and membership of the HFPA share one common goal: passing the transformational change our organization needs." That is how they replied. No one mentioned the things that you saw in that video when Ting Ting said that, you know, they accused her of having sexual relations with members to get access to the organization, and, you know, the lack of transparency, the self-dealing, all these things that they've been accused of. Is like, we're not talking about that. Talking about the self-dealing. So I told you in my previous episode that Magnus, that we had armed agents, special agents knocking on our door. They were after Magnus. And the reason for that is because he filed a whistleblower complaint to the IRS about their self-dealing. So the interesting part is that when Magnus sent a whistleblower complaint to the IRS did nothing. And then 2 congresswomen followed and sent a letter to the IRS. These were lawmakers for Congress. And they sent letters to the IRS telling them, you need to investigate. These people are stealing money, basically, from charities that they're supposed to give this money to. They're a non-profit organization. And the more money they got, the more they paid themselves. But even when congresswomen went to the IRS chose not to investigate. Another interesting part of this whole craziness is that this is supposed to be a journalist organization. When Magnus was a member, I remember that whole culture of silence that was going on. No one put anything in writing. That was like the #1 rule. Always, if you want to say something to someone, call them. Don't put anything in writing. Okay, so I'm going to try and answer some of the comments, the questions from you guys. A few people actually asked me to name these people. And I, instead of naming them specifically, I can read up a quote from Vanity Fair, because they covered this story too. And they said, in her suit, Flaa claims HFPA members Aud Berggren Morisse and Tina Junk Christensen pushed against her attempts to join the organization, concerned she would compete against them for Hollywood coverage in Scandinavian outlets. They were also allegedly concerned she would sponsor another competitor once she became a member of the HFPA. So after all this happened, and this Danish journalist was sued by me, she was elected to become a board member at the HFPA. And before that, there was also a distributor of one of the studios in Denmark who sent a letter to the board of HFPA complaining about her, saying that she was unethical and she was blocking other journalists from Denmark here in LA to do their job. And he had evidence of that. And still, HFPA elected her to be a board member. Then there was a huge article in one of Denmark's biggest newspapers calling her out. It was a 4-page story in the Berlingske, which is a very respected newspaper in Denmark, that wrote an article specifically about her, and of course about me and Magnus and everyone else involved, and telling the story of how she was the instigator of this whole campaign against me, and that she is basically responsible for the downfall of the Golden Globes. She's still a member. She still gets paid $75,000 a year to vote, and she's still attending everything here in Hollywood. She's still writing articles in Denmark and in the rest of Scandinavia. So all of these things that have happened has absolutely they had no responsibility for any of it. It had no consequences for any of these members. Someone asked me if I had any retaliation against me since then. I mean, now that my lawsuit is dismissed, I haven't heard from them. I'm sure I will after these videos, though. They are not shy of going out with statements in the press. It's never from someone on the board or the president or anyone being quoted. It's always like a statement where they're, discrediting the journalist who actually goes against them and saying something, or any type of criticism. They'd be like, oh, she's a disgruntled journalist and she only wants revenge. Or she wants 15 minutes of fame. Someone asked me if they still have the power that they used to have in Hollywood. And I would say yes and no. I mean, now it's Todd Bowley who owns the organization, who has the most power, obviously. He's the billionaire. When you have a lot of money, you have power. I've seen these people now, in the beginning, the studios didn't really invite them, especially to things. But as I see it now, more and more, they are getting the special treatment that they used to. They have reserved areas and screenings. They set up special screenings just for them. They get invited to the premieres and everything. So I would say, in general, nothing really changed. And recently, it was in the press, their latest little stunt was to invite people, like movie studios that wanted to promote their films. They invited them to a special dinner with Variety magazine and Hollywood Foreign Press members or Golden Globes members to have dinner so that they could talk about the movie and try to sway the voters to vote for them. And that cost $70,000 to attend that dinner for people who wanted to promote their movies. It was blown up in the press, so then Golden Globes retracted it and they said, oh, no, we're not going to do that anymore anyways. But you still have to pay $5,000 just to put your movie up on the screening app so that people can actually watch your movie. So it's all these little things, you know, and everyone knows about this. Someone asked me, would you do anything differently today? And I have to say that, you know, if I knew the outcome, probably I wouldn't put so much pain and sweat into trying to change something. Yeah. But then again, I feel like when you do something at the time, it always feels like the right thing to do. So I'm not a person that regrets a lot of the things that I did, because I always think, you know, at the time, that was what was right for me. And at the time, I didn't feel like I had many other options. You know, someone else asked me, why didn't Magnus leave before? Why didn't he just leave the organization? And it's not that easy, because he was working as a correspondent for Scandinavia's biggest newspaper, and all the content that he was writing about, he got through the association, because he got so many interviews through being a member. And also, he got cancer. He got cancer the same year as I sued them, which is another thing that, you know, they knew that he was diagnosed with cancer, which I think, you know, is just another heartbreaking fact about all of this, that you can treat people the way that they treated us. So yeah, he's okay now, by the way. Someone else asked me if there were people outside the industry that had experiences with them, like similar to mine or whatever. And yes, I don't know if you remember, Brendan Fraser came forward a few years ago after he had like his comeback with the movie The Whale. He said that he was blackballed in Hollywood because he went out against the HFPA. He called out the then president, Phil Burke, who had sexually assaulted him at an event. He had touched him inappropriately, and he came forward with it at the time. And Phil Burke said, oh, that was just a joke, which it wasn't for Brendan Fraser. And because he went public with it, he said that Hollywood blackballed him for over a decade. And I totally believe that. And then he was nominated for an award 2 years ago for The Whale, which was amazing, by the way. And he boycotted the Golden Globes and said, I'm not showing up at their award. So really, I'm so grateful for that. Someone taking a real stand. All the other celebrities showed up, most of them. And the year after, everyone was back. Okay, guys, thanks again for watching. And if you have any more questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I don't know if I'm going to make more videos about the Golden Globes yet. I just feel like I'm so happy that I can talk about this now so openly. And I'm sure they're going to come after me on social media and, you know, try and discredit me or whatever they're trying to do, like last time, like every time, like they do with everyone who criticizes them. So please don't listen to that. And thanks again so much for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I really appreciate the more subscriber, the better. And let's get the message out there. And thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.